Oh, recommendations for this shit.
For butt plugs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, what? Exactly. Fucking hell. Alright, we'll get into it. So 3, 2, 1. What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to the greatest podcast you've never heard of. This is MCPodcasting episode 125. Stephen hits me saying that. But we're in this episode we're joined by a local funny man, William Thompson. How's it going, mate?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on, man. Yeah, well, good. Thanks for coming on. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you. Like I said, never heard of you, but I'll go on anything. So thank you.
Someone we got like obviously people do reviews on podcasts. We got one review, and that was the review. Someone said that to us, like the greatest podcast I've never heard of. Me, that's class. I'm taking that.
That's the tagline.
That is great. I thought you were gonna say the review was like, I've never heard of this, and I was like, fuck.
Brutal review. Commenting on it, I've never heard of it. I saw that review. I'm taking that, and then everyone thinks I made it up, but I didn't make it up. It was some other fucking guy on iTunes.
No, that's fantastic.
So I was on your Instagram page, and I noticed you have your own podcast. So I think that makes you the competition now.
I know. Who doesn't have a podcast?
Exactly,
it's the only form of like creativity that anyone could do. Because before it was only comedians had it, right? Because it's quite a comedian-friendly medium. And now it's anyone that's like, I used to do art. I have a podcast. It's annoying. Every fucker has one.
And
do you not think it's a bit ego-driven, isn't it? It's like, even though we do it, it's like, why do we actually think that people would give a shit about anything we have to say? You know what I mean?
I say that like at least every 3 minutes of my podcast. I'm like, why are you listening to it? What are you doing listening to me? What's happening to you that this is like your entertainment?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I can never do I did one podcast by myself because Stephen couldn't do it one day, and I was like, I'll do it by myself, and it was the most awkward podcast I've ever done in my life. And I think Stephen's brother listened to it and says, Dan shouldn't do that ever again. I was like,
shit, was it that bad? See, I do all mine by myself. I don't really have guests on, so I do enjoy it. But did you struggle?
I think because you're funny. I'm not funny, so I have and I do.
And your job is going on stage and talking to people, so like our job is like got a bank, you know? It's different.
So so for you talking to a microphone without no audience is probably far easier than talking into a microphone in front of an audience. So it probably makes it slightly easier for you.
It's a way for me to test out like material for shows that definitely aren't happening this year, but like it's a good way for me to be like, I have an idea of where this joke could go. Let me try and just speak it out, and if it gets good feedback, which it normally does, I'm like, all right, okay, we'll keep that in. So
go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I just made a noise. It wasn't actually going on. I was just like an old man getting up.
But I think it's one of these things with podcasts, because sometimes just like the idea of hearing someone talk when you're driving, especially like we have a friend who lives in America, and he says he likes listening to our podcast because it reminds him of being back home, with the accents and stuff. I think if you have confidence to talk in the microphone, you'll be fine. You'll do a good podcast. But I don't have that. You know what I mean? I sometimes catch myself on. I'm like, what am I doing this for? Like, especially now when we record video now and we post it on YouTube. I'm like, why are we doing this for? Like, I feel bad. I didn't tell my family about it for about a year or so because I was so nervous. Because I have 5 older brothers, like, so you slag for anything. You slag for wearing skinny jeans in my family.
Everyone's the same though. You get that's a very Northern Irish thing. I find is like the minute you do anything, people are like, "Who the fuck do you think you are?"
Exactly.
You think you have a skill? Fuck you. That's what I think.
Get back in your corner. Get back in.
In Northern Ireland, we have like you can do a wee bit well, and we'll be like, "Well done." Then you start doing really well, and people are like, "You're a bit big for his boots now, isn't he?" Like there's a ceiling of how well you can do before people start getting annoyed at you.
Yeah, and it's almost like because I find myself doing out there. I'm not going to mention anyone by name, but I know a few people out of my area who's done well themselves and are quite successful. And I find myself, even though I'm happy for them, I'm a wee bit jealous in that way. I am jealous. I know I'm jealous because I'm like, and I don't want to fucking like say I'm jealous, but I think the older I get, the more I realize I'm just a jealous dick. That's all I am. I'm just jealous that they're successful and I'm not. That's it. That's the beyond. Like that's what I want to do, but I can't do it. You know, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And see when you get to that, like you realize people slagging don't bother you. When people, would come up to me and be like, "Oh, you think you're funny, don't you?" And you're like, "Mate, you fucking smell of rolled figs. Leave me alone."
Yeah. So that's going into you, like, and it's like whenever you started doing comedy and stand up and stuff, like, what was your family? Was it a normal thing for you to go into, or were you nervous to tell people?
No, I think it was fully I made no secret that I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I was always a big comedy fan. Always like did stuff online. Always was like performing in school. So it was no secret. I think my parents wanted me to go in to be like something serious in an office, and then I just like once like as I got older, like you wouldn't fucking do 5 minutes in an office. You can't sit still.
Yeah.
So once I like initially they were like, oh, it's just a phase. Then they were kind of like, okay, like he does want to do this. So it was kind of expected, but like, you know, I was like your typical class clown. I told everyone that's what I was gonna do. Oh fuck, it's what I was gonna do. So it's what I ended up doing. So it wasn't really a surprise.
What was your first experience? Like, see, I know you said you were involved in plays and stuff and doing things online, but what was your first like solo experience doing a stand-up show?
First ever solo stand-up show. Well, there's two answers to that, right? Because I had one. There's my first ever proper stand-up gig, and then the first time I ever did stand-up. And the first time I ever did stand-up was an open mic night in Groomsport to like 3 old men.
Fucking hell.
And it was fucking horrific. But they laughed at like one joke, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
This is class. And then I was followed by some old dude with a ukulele singing fucking Breakfast at Tiffany's. But then a few months later, I did my first actual stand-up gig, and it was with Colin Gaddis and Lavery's.
Oh, nice.
And I ate shit, and that made me hate stand-up.
But I think every comic bombs at the start, don't they? They always kind of fuck it up and fail and stuff, and that wants you to come back, doesn't it?
No one has like you can do well for a first gig, but you will never do well, if that makes sense. You can have an okay first gig, but no one has ever just taken to the stage and been amazing, because it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It takes you to do it to be like, fuck, this is very, very, very hard to do.
Yeah, and there's nothing more awkward like going and watching stand up, and whenever you're in the audience and you know it's not working, and you feel like you want to laugh, but then you don't want to be the only one laughing, and then you're only laughing because you don't want to make the guy on stage to feel uncomfortable. But it's more awkward if you do laugh.
Oh, you think it's worse being in the audience for that?
That'd be the worst.
On stage when that's
just
happening,
said,
you're just
it's
like,
not a good experience all around.
No, that's what I mean, because you're sweating, and you're like, everyone in this room fucking hates me right now. But I can't leave because I'm booked for 10 minutes, and you've to just plow on, and it's horrendous. It is so bad. And here's the thing, you never stop bombing. There never gets a point in your career where you're like, I have not bombed in years. The bomb always comes when you've had like 3 or 4 class gigs, and you start to feel like, I'm amazing. And then it just has a habit of being like, are you? Here's a room of 300 people, not going to laugh at a single word you say for 30 minutes. Where you go?
It definitely builds character. It definitely, because if once you bomb, well, this is my opinion of it. Once you bomb, it makes you go back to the drawing board, like back to the start again, reevaluate everything, and make sure your fucking jokes are good before you go out on stage.
Yeah, it makes you rethink. Maybe not even rethink the joke, but like, how am I doing it? How did I start that set? How did I deal with what it worked for me? Is like, how do I deal with something not landing like I was expecting it to? Sometimes you acknowledge it. I would do it, and I would argue it's not a good idea to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because the minute that wasn't funny, everyone's like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
You're just kind of all sitting there in agreement that you're not funny.
Do you record yourself maybe before, like during a set, so when you listen back and see when the jokes landed or something, or like how do you reevaluate a bad performance or even a good performance?
See, I don't watch myself back to see how the performance went, because I already know, like, in my head. Like I'm very, very harsh on myself. Even if I have an average gig, I'm very unhappy with myself, because I'm like, nah, that could have been better. I do record every gig, but just because these days it's the best way to get yourself seen is just like a 30-second clip of like audience interaction may happen, or you say something off the cuff that you're never going to say again and it won't work again. But if you get that clip online, people will be like, oh, I saw him do stand-up online, I'll go see him.
Exactly. And that's how I came across you. It was actually, it wasn't a joke you did. I think it was a mistake you said or something shit. I can't remember what it was. Something about like coming into your sister.
Yes.
I remember going, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But you acknowledge, like, gee, that didn't sound right. Me, that's so funny.
Yeah,
that happens.
Weird,
yeah, that's what and then I'm like, who's this guy? And I went on to me. I've seen you before in all these weeks. I've seen you doing one with Shane Todd a few times or something.
Yeah. I've done a few videos with Shane. I did support for his last tour. I was meant to be in LA with him actually at the minute now,
Oh no
but
way!
but
Serious?
that's not happening this year
That
or
fucking
any year ever.
sucks. Have you
Yeah,
done it
Chet,
before?
but
Have
what
you
do?
have you went away before, like to America and did stand up?
I've never been to America. The furthest I've been is UK. I've never done America. I was planning to do it this year.
Mhm.
I would love to do it when we can again. I would love to go to Boston. If I had the choice, I'd choose Boston.
Mhm.
But mainly just because you go over, say, Irish stand-up,
Like whoa,
Yeah.
and they lap that up.
Yeah.
Even though I would say I'm Northern Irish, no one is
Mhm.
buying tickets to see that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sell out my cultural identity in a fucking heartbeat. I don't care.
You have a tricolor and a fucking Celtic top on. I don't give a shit.
Fuck yeah. I'll be coming down the stairs singing Grace if you want me to. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, coming on stage to the
Show me
Foggy
the
Do.
money.
I don't give one fuck. Like,
And see,
Yeah.
like obviously, I think because I remember seeing it was Aaron McCallum over to America, and I've seen Shane Todd go to America a couple of times. Like, obviously, you've talked to these people before. How do the American crowds react to people like them? Especially, obviously, we know who Shane Todd is. He's quite big here, but obviously in America, he's
Yeah.
probably no one knows who he is really. So, how does like the American fans see him or like interact with him and shit?
so,
Conversation.
like, the thing is, the scene here is quite strong. So they know how to, if there is a crowd in the room, they know how to play to that crowd. So from what I gathered, they all did very well.
Mhm.
I know
Yeah.
McCallum went on this thing called Kill Tony. It's hosted by Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah.
And every comedian gets a minute, and you do a minute of material. I remember seeing that and thinking, how the fuck can you be funny in a minute? And I saw McCallum do his, and it was grand, but it was a minute. Do you know what I mean? You need build up, but he was
Yeah.
funny in a minute, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. And then I saw everybody else, and I was like, that he is head and shoulders above that
Yeah.
shit. There's so many comedians in America that are awful. Like, there's so
They're
many.
so
If you
bad.
can even be a decent standard, you're already ahead of everyone else. Now, it's a different style from what I've
Yeah.
heard. I've never done the crowd, but you have an idea of what doing stand up is. You'll be fine.
Yeah, because you ever watch some of the Netflix specials, like even some I don't want to name names, but yeah, I watched like
Name names, mate. Just
Name them. Michael
Get off the
McIntyre's
fence,
listening
mate.
to this.
yeah,
fuming.
because I literally turned it off, and one of them was like Chris Rock. I'm like, Chris Rock is, I'm not saying Chris Rock's a genius, one of the greats. Do you ever watch his recent one? I'm like, this isn't. Is it just a cultural
Tambourine?
thing? I can't remember what it was. It was the most recent.
I think it's Netflix now has the culture of quantity over quality.
yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So they were like, we'll sign you on to do 3 specials in 3 years. It normally takes about 3 years to make a good special, or at least it used to.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're getting in an hour special, you're probably getting about 20 minutes of what would have made it into what would have made it into like a normal show.
Yeah.
But now they're just fucking throwing everything in. Do you know what I mean?
And I feel like any fucking Tom, Dick, or Harry's getting a special on Netflix now. I think you'll get one soon if you just kind of.
Like, our podcast is going on Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix are running out of ideas
There's
now.
a guy I know a guy, like I was in the same room as him as Edinburgh. He has one. And to be fair, he is very good.
Yeah.
But it's a Netflix special now. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
that's not what
If
it's.
anything, no one gives a fuck.
It used to be a big deal in it, like getting your own special, especially Netflix. Now it's like everyone has. Now it's not good anymore.
Yeah.
Even like
When was the
like-
last good one?
I think I would say
I don't watch it.
Personally, I would say Bill Burr. He had the paper
Burrs
tiger.
was fantastic.
Yeah, he's
Paper
done
Tiger.
Yeah, that was really good. His last
Yeah.
3 or 4 have been really good. He's the only one I go to now. I'm guaranteed laughs. Everyone else, I'm like, I don't know anymore. It could be good. It could
See, that's
be
the thing. Well, Bill Burr's 52. He's been doing it since he was 20.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Comedy's one of the few industries that's like, see, the older you are in it, and while you still have your mind, when you're like 70, you're gone, but there's like
Yeah.
a golden age
Yeah.
when you're like 40 to like 60, when you're the right amount of grumpy, but also the right amount of wise with the right
Yeah.
amount of stage experience,
Mm-hmm.
or you're fucking amazing, and you just know. I think Burr's in that like golden age.
Oh, 100%.
So who would have been that you would have like watched when you were younger? Like what stand-up comedian you would have watched and went, fuck, I want to do this?
So initially, when I first got like in the stand-up, I was big into like family comedy, like Peter Kay, Michael McIntyre, because I was like, I'm talking like 6 or 7. I would have sat and watched
Mhm.
stand-up because I really loved it. But the older I got, the more I'm like, why is he talking about fucking biscuits? That's so boring. Louis C.K. probably would be the one that I'm like, and I'm still like, this dude's fucking amazing. The material, what he's saying, the things that he's doing that the crowd isn't even picking up on, like he's fucking with them emotionally just for the crack of it. Like I'm big into Louis C.K. Love him. Dave Chappelle as well.
No, he's great.
Huge into Dave Chappelle. I'm trying to think. A guy called Anthony Jeselnik I was a big fan of. He does like one-liners.
His special.
Yes, I've heard him. His class.
Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of off him a bit because he has that sort of same approach to every joke. It's the here comes the misdirection.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Because that stand-up was good, I thought, but I felt it was like it's just constant, like a whole special of one-liners, which is good.
It gets boring. It does.
Yeah.
I remember going to see Jimmy Carr, and after about 20 minutes, I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
Do jokes.
But it's so strange because me and Stephen were talking about this before you jumped on about just like the PC culture now and obviously in everything. Obviously comedy's been really affected by it there. But it's really strange because you look at someone like Bill Burr, who's probably one of the biggest comedians now on the planet, Dave Chappelle as well. And even like someone like local, say not local, but like in these aisles anyway, like Frankie Boyle. Like Frankie Boyle has never tamed his humor, but they get away with it. But why is that's me? So my part of me is like, do they get away with it because they kind of target everyone? Like everyone's fucking is up for it. They'll select the royal family. They'll think immigrants. They'll do racist jokes. But so do they get away with it because of that, or do they do it in a better way where people don't feel it's okay to cancel them?
I think it's a mixture of. Yes, they go for everyone. The South Park approach is like, oh, will you attack Muslims? It's like, well, I said this about Christians, and you weren't offended then. So if you weren't offended then, you can't be offended now.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big part of it. But it's also people like that, Burr, Boyle, Chappelle. They don't have these public images of like, oh, I'm a nice guy. I'm a friendly. Yep. Once you start having that, you have to live perfectly and never do anything wrong. These are guys on stage who are actively going, I'm a fucking bad person.
Don't listen to me.
I make mistakes. I do bad things. Here are the bad things. So it's like Jim. Have you ever heard Jim Jeffries?
Yes. Yep.
Australian comedian. Yeah. Talks all the time about the maddest shit. But if something came out about him, like, oh, he got drunk and fucking tried it on with a woman, you're like, of course he did. Do you know what I mean? That's not surprising. But if Michael McIntyre, was a bit pervy to someone, people would be like, you wouldn't think he would be like that now, would you?
Yeah.
Of course he was
but if Frankie Boyle said something horrendous, you expect it from him because he's honest and he doesn't have this fake fucking I'm a nice person persona.
Yeah.
I also think, Ricky Gervais talks about this at length, and it's about your intention. You know what I mean? Like, you can make a joke about anything, like, but if you're intending to be a dickhead, then it'll come across like that. But if you can explain your joke, like Ricky Gervais makes rape jokes, but he's not actually he's not laughing at someone who's being raped. It's in context to a story. And the problem is a lot of people just run with, he's made a rape joke. Right?
They hear the word rape and they're like,
but you're not actually listening to what he's saying. It's all about your intention. You know what I mean? It's about how you build it up.
It's the same now with like Peter, because I did some material about like your QAnon Pizzagate guys, and people are like, "Oh, you're laughing at child abuse, are you?" I'm like, "No, I'm laughing at the fact you're fucking mental, and you think Tom Hanks is a pedophile because he posts pictures of gloves. You fucking lunatic."
So where do you stand with the whole PC culture and cancel culture? Have you found it hard for you to tell jokes, or you think it's okay in like say the Belfast scene or the Northern Ireland scene?
See, within the Belfast scene, we are quite different. Down south is very different because they are, they're very conscious of offending people. I'm lucky, right? I'm a disabled orphan. I have a pass. Do you know what I mean? Because people be like, "You're privileged." I can pull it. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? But our scene's it's quite bawdy. It's quite aggressive. It's very dirty.
Yeah.
No one really now there is, they've actually had people, try to be like, oh, there's all men on this gig and there's all blah, 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 blah. We don't really give a fuck. I've noticed it's changed, but the thing is, I wouldn't try to go somewhere with a joke if I can feel the crowd isn't in it with me. I'm not going to do that just to prove a point because I still have to put on a show and make money. At the end of the day, that's how I say this is a business, and I have to give people what they want. So there's no point in me going, I'm going to spend this next 20 minutes talking about fucking women, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I feel, most of the crowd was laughing, and this is normally the case, I've found 99% of the crowd was laughing, and some stinking fucker with a septum piercing was raging. And they'll try to make it out. Yeah, they'll be like, they did these disgraceful jokes, and you're like, yeah, that the rest of the room laughed at, that you didn't enjoy because you're a humorless cunt.
It's the same thing. Yeah, go back to what Ricky Gervais had said when he said about rape jokes. He goes, he got a tweet saying, "I will only laugh at your joke about rape if I know that every single person, no one in your audience has been raped." And he just replied, going, "What a weird door policy." It's like, oh, you come in, you got your ticket. Sorry, can I just ask you something? Have you been raped? Oh, you have. Sorry, you can't come in. It's like what?
The thing that bothers me as well is comedy is like, yes, you're making a joke about something, but you are also addressing. A lot of the time, it's addressing a problem or addressing something in society. And I hate this. Never joke about it because it's the same as just go, don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you're actually
you can shine a light on a new viewpoint, but if you go, don't bring it up. That's just
we do not need to laugh about good things because good things are good. So they're already good. So why are we laughing at them? We laugh at bad things because we know they're bad and we want to feel better.
Yeah, to see how shite stand-up has been in the past 5 years because things were going quite well. I am excited for comedy in the next 5 years over the fucking apocalypse because everyone's going to be miserable. That's when comedy is amazing.
Yeah.
When everyone else is miserable. Yeah.
And it's me and Stephen did this. We do these things on our channel. We react to some comedy things, and we did one last week about South Park. And the song in South Park, there's too many minorities in my water park, and it's talking about
it's hilarious.
It's so funny. And afterwards, when we're talking about it, we're like, people are gonna watch this here and think this is really bad on minorities and black people and Native Americans and stuff. And like, if you think this song is about minorities, you fucking have missed the point. This actually is this song is about making fun of people who don't like minorities. It's pointing fingers at the white people, basically. You literally missed the joke.
The entire point of the joke is explained in the next scene where Kyle goes, if you think there's not enough white people, then you're the minority. Stop calling them minorities when you're in the minority.
And I think that happens a lot.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot in comedy. People just hear rape joke and think rape, he's making fun of rape. But he's actually probably nice. Probably making fun of the person. Why would you rape someone? No, he's shedding light on the idea and making fun of the people who would rape someone. That's the idea of it. So you're actually missing the point completely.
Most of the time. Most of the time people take offense at jokes. They've either misheard or misunderstood it. They'll take like a literal approach to something, be like, he said this. And it's like, yeah, but he said it because you're just wiping out the reason that he said that, or he said it in the character of that he spent 5 minutes establishing before that, but you've just heard rape and you went, bah. Not even, it's anything. There's some weird things would offend people nowadays.
Exactly.
Peanut allergies.
Anything.
Like there's people crack up. Was it Frankie Boyle? Don't know. Someone tweeted, one of the famous celebrity or comedians was like, you shouldn't make a joke about peanut allergies because my daughter has one. And the comedian was like, I make jokes about the Holocaust. I make jokes about this. It's like, I can't make jokes about a peanut allergy.
Yeah. Frankie Boyle has a joke where he's like, someone told me, don't do a joke about deaf people. And he goes, why? And he goes, well, what if a deaf person heard you making that joke?
Oh, speaking of fucking horrible people, I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room here as well. I think me and Steve, the US election.
Yes!
I had to bring it up. Me and Steve, we haven't talked about it yet, so we need it. It finally happened. Fuck's sake. The longest count in God's creation. What the fuck?
It's not even done yet, is it?
No, it's confirmed.
It's going to court, like.
It's not even the longest within the last 20 years. The one in 2000 went for a month.
Yes, because Bush.
This here will go longer. This will go longer because this will go to court. Like, this is all going to be fuckkt. I feel so sorry for the country.
He's tried to take it to 3 state courts who have all thrown out the case, which because they've just went, there's not, you're going off nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I think it's fucking hilarious.
Speaking of, like you said, like horrible things happening, and it's good for a stand-up. How much of a like what did Donald Trump do for all comedians in the last like for 4 years, basically? You know, he's gave you so much material to talk about.
Do you know what? I'm actually glad he's out because now it's harder to make a joke about someone who isn't fucking ridiculous. It's harder to make a normal person into satire. Trump was too hard to make a joke out of because you're like, here, what if he just came out and said, and then he'll come out and just be like, let's kick the fuck out of all the blacks. And you're like, I can't even mock you because you're that ridiculous.
It's too obvious or some shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like anything. You could put him in a ridiculous situation and he would top it.
Yeah.
The thing is with Trump as well, what's really funny in pop culture, before he ever ran for president, people loved Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the millionaire American, fucking on The Apprentice, you're fired, and then he went to be a politician, and people went, oh shit.
Yeah, he was like,
whoa.
People loved him.
He was on all the movies,
people. It'd be like if Simon Cowell started running for president or prime minister. It'd be so weird.
Yeah.
But like, it's so strange because like I never seen so much Irish people or people from here get involved in the US election in my life. Like everyone was an expert, everyone's posting about it. And even for me and Stephen here, we would say we're a bit clued in. I just stayed away from it because I'm like, Joe Biden's a bit of a creep as well. I'm like him as well, so I don't really fucking trust either of these two people.
Yeah. I posted a joke online last night where I just said, I'm glad the right pedophile won.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like America keep doing this here. They did it with Hillary and fucking Trump in 2016, and they're doing it with Biden. It's like, why are we picking the lesser of two evils every fucking day? That's what it feels like.
Because Americans are people who believe like, oh, you shouldn't have to pay thousands to like treat cancer, and they're like, you dirty bastard.
They just have a different
communist fuck.
Like America is just different. Do you know what I mean? Like they have a different culture. A lot of like 70 million people voted for Trump. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure a lot of people vote for Trump. There's a million reasons why. Do you know what I mean? It's not just one reason. Like people don't. The thing is with Trump, we all know the white supremacists vote for Trump, but that doesn't mean that everyone in that 70
votes for him is a white supremacist.
Are white supremacists. Like there's people who vote for Trump because they're born and raised Republican. They're not going to vote for Biden. Like it's not in their nature or culture to ever vote for a Democrat. But it doesn't mean that they're racist.
He also taps into those who like aren't clued in. So when he says things like, "Oh, let's ban all terrorists," people who are clued in know, like that's like, here, good idea, but how do you decipher what a terrorist actually is, where they come from? But if you're not clued in, you just go, wait, don't you do that?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know what I mean? So it's people who aren't really, immobilizes those who don't really have a fucking clue. For lack of a better term. Not saying they're all idiots, just most that I've spoken to.
They just have different opinions. You're allowed to have a different political
opinion.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're wrong. But it's really strange for me in politics. Like I feel just disillusioned with politics, especially here. Like how fucking bad we are here. But like I think this was like the most people ever voted in a US election. But again, it only was like 60% of people voted. So almost half the population didn't even vote. So I'm like, so strange.
Yeah, because a lot don't see a point in it.
Yeah. But then that's why you feed into that, mate. And we're so disillusioned with politicians. Because, like, that classic thing, how do you know when a politician is lying to you? Because the fucking lips are moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, that's why, as well, some people like Trump. Because this is one of the reasons why I don't like Trump in the same breath. Because he just says too many fucking things that you're like, mate, shut the fuck up. But he also says things that a politician would never say. Like, when you listen to Joe Biden speak, you know you're being lied to. Like, you know what he's saying is just political talk. But when Trump says something, you're like, he really believes that what he's saying. Like there's no cut off of him.
See, but that's the thing with Trump. I think he'll just say anything.
Yeah.
I don't even think he prepares. I think he just fucking speaks.
I think he lies probably more than a regular politician, and that's saying something.
I think he thinks he's right though. I don't think he thinks he's lying. I think he believes the shit he says.
He's like, he is lying though. Fucking.
They had to introduce the concept of fact check in the president's speech because it got to the point where they're like, he's just
talking shite,
spouting shite.
And especially when someone like that's saying, you do believe him, don't you? Because I think because especially. Yeah, you don't. Obviously, we expect politicians to lie on a grander scale in terms of, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they never do X, Y, and Z. We all accept that. But when a politician comes out and says like, there's all these illegal immigrants voting, you're like, fuck, are there? and like he found out he was actually just talking shit. He lied about that. That's
just
the
made
biggest
that up.
bullshit. Yeah.
Because I can get quite disillusioned with politics, and I fucking love politics. Like, it's what I studied. I do really enjoy it, and the reason to stay in it is like, in my mind, I think you need to keep the fucking scrutiny going, otherwise they'll get away with anything.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
it does get very like, fuck, more of this again. They're stealing money again, for fuck's sake.
I know. I think people view it too simplistically for me. Like, they look at it like, and the media do an amazing job of it. Like, depending on if you watch, especially in America, if you watch Fox, it's obviously leans to the right. If you watch CNN, it obviously leans to the left. So CNN and shit will paint it as if you vote for Trump, you are a racist person, and if you like, it's like Trump's bad, Biden's good, and it's never as simple as that. Like, it's crazy the way, like, and the same on Fox. If you vote for Biden, you are bad. If you vote for Trump, you are good. And I'm like, how are they allowed to have that influence on people as well? Like, the media has the biggest influence, especially in America. It's so bad.
I think we need a better focus on critical thinking in schools.
Yeah.
I think people need to learn to take in information and dissect it and realize what's good information, what's bad information, what's up to interpretation, rather than just lateral thinking of, well, this has to be true, so that by proxy can't be true.
Yeah.
I think we need to teach people to be able to decipher sources better and figure out, okay, well, who said this and what agenda might that person have?
Yeah.
Instead of...
And for people not to be so sure of themselves, like me and Dan were saying there before, we were talking about football, and I was like, I've realized when we talk about football, like, we're wrong all the time. It's like, I'm fucking wrong like 90% of the time. But why, when it comes to politics, are people so hell-bent and sure that they're right? You know what I mean?
Because you can be wrong and you can be convincingly wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can be wrong, but you've convinced people in your wrongness.
And I think the problem with, even in football is different, because football is just like, obviously, a bit of crack, because it doesn't really hold much weight in modern society. But with politics, it does. Like, a policy is going to, especially in America, because they don't have, obviously, free healthcare and stuff, and free schools, and don't have much social housing or benefits and stuff. So
it's still so fucking ridiculous to think about that.
So when you vote in someone like Trump, you're like, it's a bit of crack, but like, he's going to directly or indirectly cause the death of thousands of people. For us, it's a bit of crack, but you gotta realize how significant him getting in is in comparison to Biden or Hillary, even though I don't like either of them. The difference it is, I think we need to be a better understanding on politics in school. I know we are allowed to pick politics in A-level or I think it's GCSE as well, but I'm thinking
A-level, yeah.
Yeah, but I think maybe we should have a politics subject. There you go.
My fault.
That always happens when I'm about to make a really, really good point.
Like a mic drop point that was going to be, do you know what, you were probably going to change my whole outlook in life at that point.
I think this would have changed this podcast from like a small podcast to a Joe Rogan podcast with that one point. But man, know what it is? I forgot what it was. I forgot what the point was. I think I was trying to say, like, I feel like, okay, I do like politics, but I hate politics. Like, I love-hate relationship with politics. Like, even like the whole presidential election, like, I didn't know what was going on, like the whole electoral college vote and shit. And I mean, bring it back here, I don't really know what goes on. I know, like, basically Sinn Féin and DUP are the big parties, and people vote for them too, mostly based on what part of the street you live in.
Yeah.
Should we not have a more like educated like approach to politics in schools these days, rather than just like almost avoid the issue of the troubles, or like avoid the issue of like the sectarian divide and make it lesser by talking about it?
I honestly think you can teach politics. You can teach political procedure without actually having to teach political opinion. I think you can do that. I think you should. I think if you were to go down the street and say, what is the name of the voting system in Northern Ireland, I'd say about 2 people will be able to tell you. Do you know what it is?
No.
No, I don't. I don't even.
Do you know why our election system, or our system of election, differs from England?
It's different. I do know why. Someone told me recently. I can't remember exactly what it was.
So he doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I remember someone telling me. I mean, that makes sense. Go ahead, sorry.
Instead of using first past the post, as they do in England, which is whoever receives the most votes gets in, we use proportional representation, which is why we have the 1, 2, 3, as the famous slogan goes, 1, 2, 3 DUP.
Yeah.
That's your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. And the reason for that was because Northern Ireland was so historically used to gerrymandering and dubious electoral procedure. it allows the smaller parties to still get a voice in, to prevent the bigger parties completely holding that monopoly over it. Do you know what I mean? But most people wouldn't know that.
No,
which
it
is
does make
insane.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense. I knew that was a difference. I knew like well, in America, obviously you vote either Democrats or Republican. Obviously, there's more parties than
Or
that
Kanye
there,
West.
or Kanye West and shit. But I knew we had the 1, 2, 3 system, but I didn't know why it was called and why it was brought in. To be fair, but it does make sense to be fair because it's good to throw out. We give a different party or a smaller party. I think we had Jerry Carroll from People Before Profit on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're a small party and they're trying to compete against Sinn Féin, DUP, and the SDLP. But I feel like the older I get anyway, like it's becoming like it's literally almost become a two-state or a two-party state now in terms of DUP and Sinn Féin.
That's the reason the proportional representation exists. It's to prevent the two-party state from essentially taking over. So like we'll have a greater proportion of independents than a lot of other places in the world, and a lot of other proportion of like Alliance and Greens they still get a voice in.
Yeah, but do you not think it's still going that way? Like you look with the last election there, like certain parties didn't run in certain areas. I think SDLP didn't run in North Belfast.
They had their electoral packs. That's not new though. That has happened quite a few times. And the weird thing was the two big parties didn't used to be Sinn Féin and DUP before the Good Friday Agreement. It used to be SDLP and UUP, and then after the Good Friday Agreement, almost like what we've seen with Trump, extremism sort of came to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
So where you had UUP and SDLP were still sort of moderately in their politics, Sinn Féin and DUP took over, who are very much more extreme in their views.
Yeah.
And they've made it more difficult for Stormont to operate because they're so extreme in their views. They don't fucking compromise at all. They don't. They'll be like, "We'll use stolen money. We'll use stolen money." Hey, you both stole money. You
if you watch
fucking bastards.
If you watch the news, it's crazy. Like for me, the older I get, and the more more focused I get on politics, the more I just have to accept that people have different opinions, and people have different backgrounds, different cultures, different life experiences. So, like in America, if you grew up in a Democratic family who's always voted Democrat, no one is going to tell you to vote Republican, no matter what. You're always going to vote Democrat, and same on Republican. What I don't feel comfortable with is when people who aren't even from America just start judging people for what they're voting for, and like, you've done this, you must be this. And you're like, relax.
Yeah. Like I would agree with that. Like you can vote Trump and be a nice person, use like some of the policies. The reason that like I would judge it is if you went, I like Trump because he's getting rid of all the blocks. Then I'm gonna go, hey, I kind of think you're about that. Yeah. But I don't like the automatically. Sometimes people can vote selfishly. They'll be like, yeah, he does all these things, but he's cutting taxes, and I don't like paying taxes.
I'm a small business owner, and taxes. I pay less taxes.
Under this policy,
under this policy, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden because my taxes are going to raise and I have less money. Like, it's not always to do. But the problem with Trump is we know the white supremacists vote for. So that's the problem, and that muddies the waters. But we also know there's 100 other reasons why people vote for him.
Even here in like Northern Ireland, I dare say a lot of young people would agree with Sinn Féin's policies, but won't vote for them because they're Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
They would kind of agree with the socialist aspect, but the fact that it's Sinn Féin would put them off, and then they automatically go to DUP because they think that's who they have to vote for.
And it's so strange, and I always find it. Me and Steve had this conversation before. Like we don't really want to bring up like our politics on the show in terms of like what state of the community you from here, because
I don't hide it. I'm very open about my politics.
But like I mean, like we're like I would be really left wing. Like Stephen probably thinks I'm too left wing, and Stephen be a bit more centre than me, but Stephen be left wing as well. But in terms of like Sinn Féin, DUP, IRA, fucking UVF and shit, we don't really want to get in that there because people are so touchy about it. People are so like you can't even have.
And we also have jobs, mate. Like we also have jobs outside of this podcast that I know I'd lose my job if I started talking about stuff like that in the internet.
But if we bring it up, even if we trying to say a good thing about Sinn Féin, people were like, "Oh, fuck yous," obviously, or on that side of the street. You know what I mean? And then you can't even say a good thing about DEP or about another, say, a unionist party because people are like, "Oh, you're on that side of the street." It's like sometimes you gotta have the conversation to allow us to actually decide who is the best party. And it's so strange because we're all kind of like stuck in our own ways. I had a friend who was obviously he was a gay fella, and he hated Sinn Féin. Like, he'd never vote Sinn Féin. Even though Sinn Féin would be like the more progressive party in terms of LGBT rights, he voted DEP.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you vote DEP for? Like the DEP, like,
they actively hate you.
Exactly. I'm like, but he goes, I can't vote Sinn Féin though. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not being like a nationalist here, but I'm just saying, but why not though? I don't get what they kind of more align with you. But why
not vote Greens, bro?
Or something like, yeah, but it's like, it's so strange for me. And then people say, well, who do you vote for? Then it's like, oh, I'm being the same hypocrite then.
Oh, I absolutely come out and tell people who I vote for, because I don't give a fuck what people think. Like, I don't think it should be a dirty word to say who you vote. You should be able to go, I voted for them because blah blah blah, without people jumping down your throat.
But I think there's a time and place for the conversation.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're at the water cooler and work, you shouldn't be talking about this.
But
you know what I mean?
But see, that's where me and Stephen differ.
It depends what kind of conversation. If you ask someone who they voted for, I don't think you should be annoyed because you've asked them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I just don't. Why do you need to talk about it? Because we know how much contention it has in this country. So there's a time and a place. Like when you're paid to do a job in your workplace, you're not there to have political debates.
Well, it's not debate. It's conversation, though. And
you can have the conversation without turning it into debate, though. I mean,
yeah,
you know, that's the thing. People these days just get so fucking raging. It's like, I'm just talking about this.
Yeah, I think I agree
party that has stolen thousands, both of them. I fucking hate the two of them so fucking much.
Like, I agree with Stephen because Stephen, I agree where Stephen's coming from because the conversation.
Yeah, you guys have serious. I don't. You guys have proper jobs.
But because the conversation at the water cooler doesn't always a nice conversation about politics and policy, then it becomes into like, oh, Catholic Protestant, and that's I fucking hate. It's like so annoying. It's like obviously I grew up in the Catholic community. I am not a Catholic. I'm an atheist. I don't give a shit about God. I don't believe in God, so I'm not a Catholic whatsoever. But I am a Catholic because of like where I came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you come from that background. I also hate that our parties are brilliant at distracting from the actual fucking mediocrity that they perform at their jobs by being like, but did you see what they've named a play park? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a, you know, they'll do little things like that. They're like, oh yeah, they you know, he's claimed so many expenses here, but did you see what he said about the latest Sunday League team? I don't care.
It happens all the time. It happens globally. Like even like I texted Dan the other day. I was like, Americans aren't waking up going, right, I don't have a job, but what about that Stormy Daniels? Like it's not. It's just such a non-story. Like he banged a porn star. Get over it. Do you know what I mean?
Funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
If any, that's hilarious. Like the way people are getting proper annoyed about that, I'm like, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, he was a fucking millionaire, like business owner. I'm sure he's banged quite a few.
You're not banging porn stars. What are you doing?
You're doing it wrong.
They're all doing it.
But you get money to leave it for your kids, you fucking nerd.
All right,
see, the same when they got on Michael Gove about sniffing coke, and I was like, fucking fair play to him. Go ahead, Michael.
It happens all right. It happens. It's a bad thing about politics. Like we're talking about cancel culture and comedy. Cancel culture and politics is just as bad. You know what I mean? Like you can't even. You've seen certain leaders, like probably even like certain leaders from like over in England came here to try to obviously settle the fucking conflict here, and people are like, "Oh, you're meeting with him? Oh, he's an asshole. You can't meet with him now." It's like, but how are we meant to fucking settle the conflict? We fucking can't meet each other. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's the thing. Difference in politics and comedy is like. And comedians don't have power. We're not in a position of authority telling you to do one thing and then doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the only time it really bothers me when a politician does it. It's like, oh, don't do this. And then it comes like, they've done it. And you're like, oh, you wee bastard.
And that's why I said this. Me and Steve were texting about this here a few days ago about it. And I was just like, you got to remember, like, what Trump can do indirectly or directly, or not even Trump, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's a fucking insane cunt anyway. But I mean, like, what they can do, and people are like, oh, sure, they made a mistake. They went to a war in Iraq or Afghanistan. It's like, that caused deaths of millions of people. What are you on about?
A mistake is mislabeling a spreadsheet. That's just an invasion, like this.
It's kind of like the way, like, because I'm left, people are like, oh, you must like Obama. No, Obama's a cunt. He goes, oh, but he was like kind of progressive. I was like,
see anyone who doesn't know politics, they'll assume like, oh, you must love Obama. And you're like, most left
people
don't like
Obama. That's the media. That's the media that tells you how good Obama is.
Well, it's the same media that I learned about his drone strikes through. It's that thing I like to say of like, do you have the ability to see the information without the narrative they're putting behind it?
Yeah.
So, when people are like, oh, the media tells you this, and you're like, are you fucking thick?
There's
Do
always
you
a
not have
hidden
a brain
agenda.
of your own to be like,
Yeah,
well, he did this?
yeah.
Do you know?
I'll take-
But there are some people who are fucking thick, so I suppose that is the argument.
And
and
then
that
why
is-
is Obama painted as the good guy? He's only painted as
Because
the
he
good guy
was
because
somewhat progressive compared to Bush, and also I think a big part of it was his attacks on the Middle East involved a lot less people on the ground.
yeah.
Do you know, it
More
killed
drone
a lot
strikes.
less Americans, and Middle Eastern people don't count apparently. So
yeah,
I think what he
Crazy country,
represented, like I think we all, and anyone who is progressive or see themselves on the left, like when Obama was coming in the office, like we all kind of felt hope because
yeah.
the way the African American communities have been treated in America, now you're gonna have the head of state an African American. This is gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
This is gonna be
it's
class.
good he fixed all that, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. Like so, like we all were all hoping. I think everyone put a lot of people put their a lot of energy into Obama. So when it didn't actually develop into anything much different compared to Bush, apart from the drone strikes, people still want to defend that because people don't want to admit they're wrong. Back to what we were saying
Yeah.
before, people don't want to let it go. Fuck, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But like for me,
Yeah.
I supported Obama. I kind of liked him when he came in, but I was wrong with
Yeah.
him.
He's
I didn't-
cool as fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
That-
Did you
that's
see him
it.
hitting
That-
that
that's
3-pointer
right
the other
it.
day? Did you see
He's-
it?
he's-
On
yeah,
the news?
the basketball.
Yeah, I was like, he just literally picked up a basketball, hit a 3-pointer from like the other side of the court, and just walked off. He's like, "This is just what I do." And I was like,
that was
"What?"
that was like take 100 though. By the way,
I know,
do it again.
it's-
Do it again.
Compare him dancing to Trump dancing.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
your
yeah.
answer.
Yeah, that's it. To be so
Yeah.
See
I
that the
know.
video of him dancing the YMCA?
Oh, it's hilarious.
I thought that was doctored. I was like, "There's
No,
no,
it's-
way
he
that
put it
his
up himself.
page put it out."
I know.
What the fuck?
It's so
know.
funny. Like,
But sometimes like we almost like especially people from here are getting too involved in American politics.
of course we are.
Before we
100%.
even know what's
Oh,
going on
okay.
here, and that's why this
Yeah.
this election I didn't post anything about Joe Biden, even though I kind of wanted him to win slightly more than Trump because I think Trump's a lunatic. You know what I mean? But I don't know what's for us personally. Is it going to be much different? No.
No.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I think there's a difference between, you know, like you say, discussing something when you're properly into politics and you are just discussing the implications of it
Yeah.
and just jumping on a hot issue. People just love to argue nowadays. People are actually arguing now, like, here, do you think the government should feed starving children? No, I
Yeah.
don't think they should. How's that a hot button
I
issue?
know. Yes.
Um,
Oh my god, they said it about Marcus Rashford last week. It was on BBC Match of the Day. It's like, oh, well, Marcus Rashford's stance on like feeding children. It's a bit of a controversial topic. I'm like, is
Why?
it? Is that
Just,
controversial?
But I've seen people be like, it shouldn't be up to the government to feed its citizens. And you're like, here, it kind of fucking is. I'm
What?
not saying, when I'm paying for your lunch and your lunch is a filet mignon with some fucking steamed vegetables,
yeah.
right?
Give me
we
some
can
chicken
afford to
nuggets. All I'm
feed-
looking here is some chicken
And
nuggets.
chips. I mean, like,
The argument was we can't afford it. 20 million it would have cost. And that same day, MPs released they got a 20 million upgrade in their staffing budget.
that's hilarious. It's
And people are
sad,
still
but
like,
hilarious.
if you
Cave
can't
now,
afford,
they're like they're
if you,
paying for it now.
if you
Do you know
can't
what's
afford
scary?
kids,
Do you know
just
what's actually
eat your-
scary? Right? The conservatives who make those god awful decisions have the mandate, so the majority of people vote for them. So the majority
know.
of people think that way.
It's like a beaten wife syndrome of like, oh,
Yeah.
I swear it'll be different this time. He
So
looks up.
they're actually representing the general public because they get the votes.
Yeah.
And we know they're cunts.
I know. And I think
It's
I think
mad
that's
to me.
I think during like the whole like Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn, like that we fucking think was happening the election before last Christmas. Because like for me, I find myself I'm privileged. Like I haven't really encountered problems in my life. Not saying because I'm white and all too, just because my mum and
Yeah.
dad worked really well. My mum and dad stayed together and were able to provide me an opportunity to go to university, get a job, and move out, have my own apartment and all too, even though it looks fucking shite now. But like, you know, I mean, I'm lucky in that sense. So for
Yeah.
me, when I make a vote, or I think when I make a vote, I'm voting for the lesser people, the people on the streets. Who's going to suffer because of Boris Johnson? Who's going to suffer because of Jeremy Corbyn? That's who you should vote for, not for yourself in your privileged fucking middle class existence. Vote for the fucking people on the street.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I would vote for him. Like, who do I think I have more in common with? And
Yeah.
it's not the Tories. Not being said I have much in common with Labour either. Right?
Yeah.
I liked Corbyn's ideas. I didn't think he was a great leader politically,
Mhm.
but I liked his ideas. I just fucking, it blows my mind how like a working class person can see Boris Johnson and be like, me and him are one of the same.
Yeah.
I also have 7 children to 5 women. That we are one of the same.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agreed with it, Jeremy. I would probably tailor towards his views on things. I just thought he was a poor representation of his views on
I
things
completely
because
agree
he
with that,
seemed quite weak. He seemed the amount of interviews that he had and just got stroked on. And even though I'm agreeing with what he's saying, and I know he can come back, it's like say this and you'll win this argument, and he just caves. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't actually know. I mean,
All you
he
need
came
to do is
across
shout at
badly.
him. Basically, shout at him, and he was like, ooh.
Yeah, and I was
Like I did agree with him a lot, especially one of his big policies he got shit for. He was like, I would like England to learn more about their colonial past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which they should, because then they'll realize why they go on holiday and the world fucking hates them. But like he got shit for that.
Yeah, it's like no one wants to. It's kind of like very similar to what happens in America, not to accepting like what they've done to the native population, what they've done to African Americans in terms of slavery and all too. I think every country needs to learn their history and see where they came from and all too, and the problem that their country were involved in, because you have a better understanding going forward as well.
It's not saying like you need to feel bad. It's like
no.
Be somewhat aware.
I 100% agree, but I also don't think elections should be run based on that. I think elections should be run on what you're doing now for the people.
Yeah. It shouldn't. I really feel like he was doing it in the midst of like trying to get some clout with like the left. It really felt like he was bringing it out with that.
Yeah, an election, no matter where it is, should be, what are your policies? What are you doing right now? These are my 5 main policies. These are my 5 main policies. It shouldn't be on other things outside of that. You can have other things. There'll always be things behind that you can't focus on and be brought up. But you shouldn't elect. You should elect someone based on their policies.
But again, and then I think you got to remember, how do we get this information? We obviously watch BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, ITV and stuff. If they're not talking about their policies, we're not going to be aware of them. So we're saying that, say, take Jeremy Corbyn, for example. Stephen thinks, he should be focused on other things rather than that. There's like, well, he is. They're not bringing it up. They're not telling us. He is. You go on their website.
Yeah, but it takes you 30 seconds to look it up now.
Yeah, no, exactly. So a lot of people don't do that though, man.
No, I know.
So we're saying Jeremy Corbyn should be talking about X, Y, and Z. But he is. But when he's on a platform, not Jeremy Corbyn, Boris Johnson, or anyone, any politician, they're obviously getting fed these questions to suit a certain narrative, and that's what people got to remember. Back to the agenda, why they ask.
The ability of a good politician is to turn that into you, will you like turn any bad question into a positive for you? I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah.
But like Blur, for example, was fucking amazing at doing that. Like they go for him, and then he would spin it around into making himself look amazing.
But not even.
Does anyone know? Sorry, Stan, go ahead.
Fuck's sake, Stephen. I'm trying to talk to you. Now go ahead, Stan. I'm just going to rant here. Go ahead.
But for example, like Trump and Biden ran for the presidency there, right? And there was 70 million people voted forever, blah blah blah. Does anyone know what Trump's main policies are? Does anyone know what Biden's main policies are for these elections?
A lot of what
not really.
A lot of people would like. No. I do, because I would have to look it up, because it's just when I'm like in my head is like you need to know what you're talking about, but a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah. So they're voting based on emotive issues. They're voting on emotion rather than any sort of factual policy change.
Policy was not fucking brought up at all.
Yeah, no one cares.
Biden wants to completely reverse Trump's stance on the Paris Climate Agreement, and that was never mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obamacare, he wants to expand it to 97% of people, wasn't mentioned.
Yeah.
See, whenever Biden and Trump were debating and Trump was clocking on like a big chicken beside him, going on and just ranting and raving, Biden should have just went, right, this is what I'm going to do as president. Boom, 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 boom. And it would have been a much more effective debate rather than just arguing.
But people don't care about that there. People want clips. People want sound bites they can post on their social media page. That's the problem with modern politics.
Memes win elections.
Yeah, it does. It's crazy how social media has such an impact now. Even
now, basically, election strategy is my opponent is a pedophile, and here's why.
Yeah. I know.
Sorry, my opponent is more of a pedophile than me, so here's why.
Okay, I was a bit of a pedophile, but he's more of a pedophile.
Yeah, he's more. He's done it the worst.
The ones I was pedo on were good looking, right? They're stinking. He's a stinking pedophile.
No one cares about these policies, because I think people really cared. They probably would have voted for fucking Bernie Sanders. Like, no,
I just want to elect who's gonna look into Pizzagate. That's all I want.
Especially if you have a president like Trump who doesn't even believe in climate change. know what I mean? Like he doesn't believe in climate change. Like there you
I-
go. That's
He wanted
insane.
renewable. He wanted to continue like fossil fuels, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like he wanted to cancel all green energy
Yeah.
agreements and like targets. And he's like, nah, we're gonna keep doing coal, bro. Keep doing coal.
And
But then the reason the people that are voting for Trump are the people who work in the coal
Work in those-
industries in
yeah.
America. So if I
Yeah.
worked in the coal industry, I'm not going to
100%
vote for
you
somebody who's
vote
going to wipe out my whole industry.
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
yeah, I know.
So
Yeah, but anyway,
Right,
I
Wrap it
don't,
up.
so fuck them.
Yeah.
That's what I.
before we go here, William, any plans for the future? Any obviously there's probably no gigs, no bars open, like, but like
Whenever, let's fingers crossed, fucking either through testing or vaccines or whatever they're gonna do, that this fucking
Oh,
quells
you
down.
believe in vaccines? Do you? I don't believe in vaccines. Fuck's sake.
You don't believe in like
I'm
as a
joking.
concept, or
I
he
don't
hates
you
all
don't believe they
vaccines.
exist?
Yeah, he doesn't believe they exist.
I don't
yeah.
believe the word. I think the word's made up.
Whenever bars open, do you know what? It's hard to make plans at the minute. We will be doing shows. We will be doing stand up again one day. I swear I don't talk about politics. That I do, but it's funny. Check out the Our House podcast or check me out on Instagram or TikTok. It's William Thompson. What am I on Instagram? Crispy Boy Will. That's what I am on Instagram. Follow that.
Oh yes, check him out.
That's
Funny
all
guy.
my plugs in.
Yeah, cheers, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It was great talking to you. Actually,
Yeah, thank you very much.
It went down a more
Had a great
political route than I think we talked about comedy for 5 minutes.
But
5
I think
minutes
it's all
and then-
okay. We weren't arguing. No one argued. We're all still friends.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
slate you online
I think
when I
that's
go
how
out
you
for it.
should be able to discuss it, though. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
you
tweet
should be
about
able to,
William
even if you
Thomas
did
is a
disagree, you
fucking
should be able to
pedo.
talk. Yeah, pedo. Oh. That's fine. That's the next election is just gonna be he's a fucking pedo.
You are now listening to MC Podcasting.